Imperial Lounge presents an icon.
Reggae dancehall by the beach. To be held at Imperial Lounge, 2 to 14 High Street, Margate Seafront, Kent, CT9 118. To be held on the first Saturday of each month. Your host DJ Matt. Also rotating DJs, Roddy Boone, DJ Happy,
and Younger General.
Doors open 8 p.m. till late. Free entry all night. Music policy, reggae, dancehall, and a touch of soul. On the first Saturday of each month. Reggae dancehall by the beach. At the Imperial Lounge Margate. Do remember, you can also get VIP and Shisha booking. More info on the World Jam Global website. That's www.worldjamglobal.com. Also www.imperialloungemargate.co.uk.
See you there.
It's the right thing you doing. Rebellious like Malcolm. 1, 2, 3, swing it.
Do you have an old sound tape or your favorite cassette tape that you want converted to CD or MP3 format? Do you need a demo CD, radio ad, a DJ, or even a sound system for your wedding, birthday, or special occasion? Then why not get in contact with KTR Records on 07931 152 448 or check out our website on www.ktrrecords.com. We have been in business since 2004 and also undertake community projects. So for your remixes, duplets and all your sound editing needs, why not contact KTR Records, official sponsor of World Jam Global Radio. KTR Records, coming your way. Do you like music like this?
Great music all the time.
Or like this?
The music you love.
Maybe this.
Great music that makes you want to turn up the volume loud.
Or life track like this.
Especially where human life is concerned. Surely, sooner or later, people will realize that lives actually matter.
Then you're in the right place. Keep it locked to World Jam Global, where music is harmony.
Music 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Yeah, you're a World Jam. Hotter than them.
See live schedule.
You see, it's here. You see. New feature coming from World Jam Global Radio in 2018. World Jam Global Top 10. To vote for your favorite artist, go to twitter.com/worldjamglobal or facebook.com/worldjamglobal. So pick the right track where you want to have in your car, at your house, a rock. At them.
I want you to stand by for another explosive and exclusive interview.
Already did my time. I paid for my
Sentenced to 40 to 80 years in prison.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
For a crime that didn't even take place.
My time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
Once again, we've got some technical difficulties. I'm working hard behind the scenes to get
Really care.
Coach Jason Sadowski on Skype.
Do or die. I had too many rivals. I was too young and foolish to stay in school. I learned my lessons in the streets. There was not a man I couldn't beat.
In the meantime, I'm just posting this live on every social media network I can get.
I had girls all over the street. I was
Good evening, everybody. It's Kevin Julian on Issues Today of World Jam Global Radio. Another exclusive wrongful conviction.
Don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about being no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail.
If you give me just a few short moments, I will be with you.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had to do. That's why I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent, I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid shit. Now sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb. I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chum. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters.
The opening statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison.
Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime. Already did my time.
Wherever you are in the country, wherever you are in the world, this is live, another edition of Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio. Coach Jason will be coming on very shortly, live.
To vote and live like an ordinary citizen again. This is my message to all of my friends in the pen. Statewide, worldwide. There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I had girls all over the street. I was getting money. Life is so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man.
This week we interview another exclusive. Talk to Coach Jason Sadowski, exonerated, released, set free from a sentence he should have never had.
Already did my time.
Hear how he was set up, disbelieved, and then sentenced for a crime that was never even committed.
Already did my time.
And listen as he tells his story of the hard road back to freedom.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had to do. That's why I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent, I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid shit. Now sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb. I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters. Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time.
I mean, this one is mixed with so much.
I paid for my crime. Already did my time.
The opening statements are going on right now.
Perjury,
Could be facing
false statements, false evidence, police corruption, inadmissions. This is a man that should have never gone to jail.
Cold with this living hair. Trying to cope with this living hair. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, you're going to have to forgive me as I start this one. It looks like I'll be able to get it now.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Back in the day, I didn't really care about the system. It was all about survival. It was do or die. I had too many rivals. I was too young and foolish to stay in school. I learned my lessons in the streets. There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I had girls all over the street. I was getting money. Life is so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man. Don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about being no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail. trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time.
All right, here. Am I speaking to Leslie? Wesley? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? I can, but yeah. Are you there?
My camera is on.
We need to turn the camera off.
All right, turn the camera off.
We need to turn the camera off so that we can actually get a straight, uninterrupted call. Watch the language, guys. We're live on air. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me any better?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Let's be careful with the language. We are live on air, going out all over the world, my friends.
Understood.
Okay, so we didn't have a chance to do a brief. I'm very, very sorry for the abrupt way that we've just managed to make this connection. It's my fault. I normally have all of my guests lined up on Skype weeks in advance. We did this show with Coach Jason some time ago with George Barwood, and I assumed that Jason was on Skype and left that one too late. So we've only just managed to get connected. We've borrowed a friend of Jason's because he couldn't download the Skype in time, which is why I've been playing around with music and trying to delay the start of the show. But we do have Coach Jason Sadowski live on Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio, sentenced 40 to 80 years for a crime that wasn't even committed. It's not even that he did not commit it. The crime was not even committed. And he was exonerated in 2017. Good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, Jason, or Coach Jason, as you affectionately known.
Good morning. Yeah, it is still morning here. And I'm glad that we were able to make the connection. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, the honor and the privilege is ours. So first and foremost, Jason, let's just rewind a bit, even before this fateful day when this incident took place. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, what your family life was like, what your growing up was like, and what you were doing prior to your life being turned upside down by this catastrophic event, which would have been enough to send anybody scatterbrained.
Well, I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I'm old enough to where we grew up in neighborhoods. So I grew up in a predominantly Irish and Italian neighborhood. It was in Detroit city limits. I had a pretty rough childhood, but I thought it was good. Being one that wasn't really a joiner, I didn't join gangs. And because I was white, I was a minority. So I had quite a few altercations all throughout school. So I got interested in boxing and martial arts very young because I was fighting all the time. I started out with Taekwondo, and then started boxing and wrestling around the same time. Fell in love with the martial arts, and made a life of it.
Okay. There's a funny sound, which I believe is somebody's phone going off in the background. We really do need to have some sort of like quiet in the background. Everything gets picked up on here, and I really want to give this interview some justice. As I said, we did this show while you were incarcerated last year or 2 years ago or so, while you were still in prison. And I did the show with a dear friend of ours, George Barwood, and we went through all of the evidence, and it was
George is amazing. Yes, and I was thankful for George's advocacy and everyone in the group, on the wrongful conviction group, and all the other support that I had received. George is amazing. After I was able to listen to the show, my ex-wife and my attorney had played the show for me over the phone so I could hear it. And I was very grateful to this coverage and for George. And then just to pick up answering your previous question, I fought. I was one of the very first guys in MMA. We didn't call it MMA back then. We called it no holds barred fighting, or I called my system comprehensive martial arts. But it was a combining of all the different forms and elements at that time. If you recall, MMA, it didn't exist with the UFC until 1993. I was fighting and training and promoting that as a sport and as a system in the late 70s, 80s, and so. And I predated UFC and then missed my shot as a fighter because I'd made mistakes. I sent myself to prison the first time, and I ruined my career as a fighter. But when I got out, I fought again and enough to get successful, to get some attention my way, and I got back into the industry and I became successful as a coach. And we ran a really good program, and we did a lot of good. And
that was going to be my next question, really, Jason. Was how did the name Coach Jason come about?
Well, it came about because that's what everybody called me and referred to me to. Coach. I love to teach. I love every aspect of the martial arts. When I was young, like I was saying earlier, I discovered Bruce Lee's the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and it became my Bible. And I've been interested in learning every realistic possible application of every variation of technique that there is. And that might not mean something to someone who's doesn't have a background in the arts. So what it means in a more general sense is if you're creating something, you want it to be the most pure and beautiful that it can be. And I approach the martial arts the same way, and I give that love and attention to my students, and they respond to it.
Well, and I suppose that kind of got you a lot of success or satisfaction in coaching, training, teaching, developing a school, a class, a group of people that was committed and focused and had a desire to do or to share the love and the passion that you had grown into. So tell us a little bit about some of your training schools and some of your pupils and some of the relationships that you had, people that potential, what you saw as you developed this school that you were doing.
Well, I after establishing myself back into the industry as an assistant coach, I opened my own gym for the first time at the I believe it was the end of 2010, August of 2010, I believe. And for the first 2 years that we had a MMA fight team, we went undefeated. I had 3 females ranked in the top 15 in the world. There was not another gym in the country that had 2 ranked in the top 15. At the time that I was set up, my best fighter, and who was also my girlfriend at the time, Amanda Wyatt, she was ranked number 3 in the world and held 2 regional titles. We were getting ready to sign a contract with Invicta, which is a big deal. We were talking to Shannon about signing Amanda to a 3-fight deal that would have changed her life. There's a lot of things that got destroyed by this. One of the things is the opportunity to change her life. That was a big thing. She started late. She was a late bloomer. She had a small window for her career. And then after I was falsely arrested and convicted, she had to switch gyms. She went to another gym. They changed her fighting style. She went from a top championship contender to losing 4 fights in a row and retiring because I was not there with her.
So here you are as a martial arts teacher, trainer, got a good school going, people going. Tell me how that manages to combine with growing marijuana.
I am a very open proponent of the benefits of marijuana. I have suffered a catastrophic injury due to martial arts training and fighting. I had my knee dislocated, and I snapped my ACL and my MCL. I tore my meniscus cartilage. So by the time, 5 surgeries later, including a reconstructive, they prescribed me all kinds of pain pills, and I can't stand them. I do not understand how people can do that by choice, because it's a miserable feeling to me. And so I live in pain. If I smoke marijuana, it takes the pain away, and it also gives me mobility. It takes away the arthritis. The medicinal benefits I'm a proponent of. I even had open sponsorships affiliated with my gym. That being said, when Michigan legalized medical marijuana, I saw the opportunity to do good, to promote it as in the sports world as well, because there is a taboo there as well, and to make money. So I was legal. I got my license. I had 2 other partners with 2 other grows who were also legal. We had the legal plant count. Everything was legal. And just to even concede anything, there was one pre-grow room that had a lock that may not have qualified under the statute, but everything was legal and above board. And I became involved in it because I believe in it, and I don't think it's something to be shied from.
It's always very important that people stand for some of the things that they believe. But this love or journey or venture into cannabis growth and selling or supplying was to ultimately lead to the most catastrophic event of your life, right?
Well, absolutely. And I wish it was that simple. I wish it was as simple as they came after me because I was a grower.
Yeah.
Because they, even after they legalized it, they did in the early, the first 2 years, they repeatedly went after people and arrested them and ruined their lives, even though they legalized it. Yeah. And I wish it was just that simple.
But where you were, the area that you lived in, it was legitimate, right? It wasn't illegal where you were?
No, it was legitimate. I had my license from the state of Michigan. I was legal. I had my license. I was current. Everything was good.
And then I'm just going to read this. You were convicted in 2014 for solicitation to commit murder, 2 counts of torture, 2 counts of unlawful imprisonment, and 2 counts of assault by strangulation. Allegedly, you tied up 2 women in the basement of your gym with duct tape and beat them after they admitted to stealing an undetermined amount of money from your wallet. In some reports, it was just a minuscule amount of money, a really small amount of money. And I think we'll go into that slightly a little bit later as to how that came about. And the State of Michigan Court of Appeal, well, we'll leave the Court of Appeals part for now. Let's just go to the original charge for which you were arrested and initially convicted. Tell me, let's just go back to the beginning and tell us the story as you remember it, from the beginning, where you were, what you were doing, and how you managed to come across these 2 individuals.
Absolutely, and if you don't mind, I'd like to give a little bit more answer to your previous question about the reason behind them coming after me. But if you want to get back to that, whatever order you want to go in.
No, that's fine. This is your opportunity to tell your story, Jason.
Thank you. So much of this was unbeknownst to me at the time. Everything that I'm going to leave out as best I can, rumors or hearsay or secondhand. I'm going to try to stick just to testimony of both the first, second trial, pre-trial, and also letters and affidavits or statements to the police. I wish it was as simple as the state or a rogue prosecutor or detective coming after me because they didn't like marijuana and I was growing marijuana. I was the easy target. There was a lot of things that went into me being set up by the chief of police, and then that being compounded by the complicity of being then prosecuted by a prosecutor. Once he looked at the facts, had to have known that it was a completely bogus case. So what had happened is I moved to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to open my gym after being an assistant coach. I married a local sweetheart of the town. Many people didn't like me just for that alone. I married Sarah Petro. She is literally an angel. She is the most amazing, she fought for me the entire time that I was away and falsely convicted. And we were divorced at that time. As my ex-wife, she was relentless in making sure the truth was known. So after Sarah and I got divorced, I then developed a relationship with Amanda Wyatt, who was also my best fighter at the time. She was probably the second or other most popular woman in that town. There was a lot of jealousy, and I didn't know this at the time. And there was relationships and family relationships that I was unaware of. So there was a lot of small town politics going on. And the fact that the chief of police brother-in-law welcomed me as a business leader and community leader, accepted me into the community, I found out later stuck in his craw. So there was a lot of behind the scenes politics that if anybody is interested, these facts are testified to. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but if it was written in the script, you wouldn't believe it because there's too many cliches to put together. And it all led to me becoming a target. They didn't like the fact that I was an ex-con. They didn't like the fact that I was a big fish in a small town, that I was an outsider, that I came from below the bridge. I was called a troll. People from in the Upper Peninsula, some of them are very close-minded. I didn't know this. And there's also great and beautiful people up there, but I kind of got caught in the middle of the two groups. I had a lot of supporters and I had a lot of detractors. And the detractors were mostly the law enforcement side because I was a prior felon and that I was coming in to this small town and really turning it on its head. I brought TV and radio attention. We were winning. We had the Olympic Training Center I made relationships with. Anyway, so this chief of police decided that he didn't like me, didn't want me around for multiple reasons. He sent his informants at me. I did not know this. There's two women and a man, call him a male. And the detective, Chief Willie, sent them to set me up. There's been different testimony of whether it was just supposed to be a try to get me to sell, to do a controlled buy, or whether they were to try to do something else to try to get me to do something. But the fact is that they asked me, these two women ended up asking me for help, telling me they were interested in my gym, and that the one woman, Becky, did have a legitimate medical marijuana license card to purchase. Being the type of person that I am, I engaged them in conversation. I started listening to their story. I volunteered to help them. The one woman told me that she had two kids that were interested in martial arts. They were adult children, 18 and 19, but she thought that it would be really good for them to get into. I talked to her about that. They both started talking to me about their drug usage, and that led into lifestyles and life choices. And I started talking to them about the things they were talking to me about. And I told them that while I was a proponent of marijuana, that hard drugs are destructive. They just destroy lives. There's no way to control. There's no way to prevent damage to the body. And I did my best to help these women.
Okay, let's just pause there for a second. I just want you to contemplate this. At this time, while you was having these conversations with these two women, where were you at this point?
It started out at the parking lot in the parking lot behind the bar at Hickey's, which was testified to. They approached me as I was getting ready to leave.
So the point I'm trying to get to is, they've approached you. You're at a parking lot. You're leaving Hickey's, and now you're going into all of this detailed conversations, which some people might consider to be quite personal. How did you feel? How responsive were they to the conversation? Were they? Here's the thing. I'm a support worker. I've worked with drug addicts, alcoholics, homeless, vulnerable people. And sometimes once you connect with people, all of a sudden you start to feel them opening up. But you can sense when they're genuine, when they really want to get something off their chest and they're hurting, or they're just trying to impress and they're storytelling. So I'm just trying to get at this point in the conversation as you were having with them, as you were going into these details, what was your gut telling you? Was this a fruitful conversation? Did you feel you were connecting with some people that were really looking for help? Is that where you was at that time?
Where my connection was that I thought that there was an opportunity to get through, hearing them talk. But I also thought that much of it was just talking about the behavior of people in that lifestyle. You know how they tend to delay or pause or they give you the details, but they're always shifting the point of conversation or the story. They don't want to be pinned down on things. So I knew that they were both basically in the life. I knew that if they could try to get over, that they would, but I never thought that they actually would on me, because I was trying legitimately to help them. And also I was a bit arrogant. I grew up in Detroit and I can read people, and I thought, they're not really, I don't have to worry about them trying to get over on me, because I'll see it coming.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I totally get that, Jason. I totally get that.
So I'm talking to them, and then they asked me, the one woman who had the medical marijuana card, Becky Brissett, she asked me if I had marijuana and if I had any openings. I said I had one opening, and if she wanted to be a patient, I would sell to her. This is prior to the discussion, the developing discussion about all the other drug use and all the personal details that came out later. So as we talked about this, she asked if we could actually, if she could actually get some marijuana. She said that she hadn't smoked in 2 days, and she hadn't had any medicine, and that she was hurting. And they asked if we could go get it. And I said, sure. I'll also take the opportunity. I'll show you guys the gym. After the initial coming in all together, the boyfriend then stayed there at the bar. So just the two females left with me by themselves. And as we left, I waved to the bartender that night who was out back smoking a cigarette. Her name is Brenda Jordan. She testified on my behalf in both trials, both the original trial and the retrial. I waved her as we left. I was plainly visible that they were in the vehicle with me. I waved. There was no hiding. There was no anything. And Brenda's a good friend of mine and knows me and knows my vehicle, knows me and my vehicle on site. I go at night to escort her and her stepdaughter out. My stepdaughter was also one of my girlfriends. That was part of the social problems. I had 3 girlfriends and an ex-wife at that time, and that was part of the problems that some of these people, including the chief of police, had with me. Anyway, I drove right over to the gym, which is a block away from the bar, directly across. The next block's over. My parking lot is open behind my building, and you can see to my building to the bar, at the front of the bar. Do you understand what I'm describing? Mm-hmm. I drove around the block, pulled in. We got out. I opened my gym. I gave them a bit of a tour. They were impressed by the posters and pictures on the wall. They were immediately drawn to all the pictures and posters that I had of Amanda with her stuff, and they wanted to know, because they knew her from town, but they didn't really know. They said, "Oh, we heard she fought," but they saw her pictures and posters, and then they became very interested in discussing the MMA and fighting, especially from a female's perspective.
Mhm.
And that's when they both started talking to me about wanting to train, and that's when Becky brought up having her children and possibly me training them. I initially agreed, gave my basic spiel that I always do when people show any interest in the martial arts, give them a little bit of my background, talk about what my mission is, what we do. I'd started doing those things, and as we did, they started opening up more and more about drug use, about the lifestyle, that they both had been turning tricks, that they were in the life. And, you know, at first, Angel seemed like she was very sincere about wanting to turn her life around, to get some help.
At this point, were you guys drinking? Were you smoking? Were you sitting down? What was the atmosphere? What was going on in and around you as you guys were having this conversation?
Well, after I took them through my gym and gave them a tour, on the first floor of the gym, I have my office. And then half of the office was partitioned, and I had a bedroom and private quarters there. And then I also had living quarters downstairs, and there were apartments above the gym. So we were in my office bedroom, and we were sitting around. I have an end table on casters that I use as a centerpiece when I have guests in there. Angel and I were sitting on the edge of the divan as a hospital bed, couch bed that I was using as my bed. And then Becky was sitting across from us in a chair. We were smoking. I had given Becky a couple of samples of different varieties of marijuana that I had for her to sample to say what she wanted. I poured drinks for us. All I drink when I do drink is rum. I drink rum and Cokes, so that's what I had there. I went to the machine. I have a vending machine in the gym, and I got some Coke to make rum and Cokes. I came back to the room, and when I came back to the room after getting Cokes the first time is when Angel started acting like she had something to tell me, and her behavior changed a bit, and she acted like she really cared about me, and also was acting very skittish at the same time, and was indicating that she had something to tell me that she didn't want her friend Becky to hear. So because I was in the middle of what I thought was an important point in the conversation and talking about their lives, I continued to talk about, drug use and abuse a bit, and some of the stuff that I had seen and experienced and helped people with. Angel continued to give me eyes and nudges like she wanted to go out. And then finally she asked me, "Hey, can I use the bathroom?" And I said, "Yeah, it's right out the door. We came in and stepped to your right." And she's like, "Well, it's kind of dark out there. Will you show me where it's at?" So I kind of figured then at that point, I was figuring out she wanted to tell me something a little slower than I am normally. I don't drink normally, but that night by now I had probably 4 rum and Cokes. So we go out, I take her out and I show her where the bathroom is. And she says, "Look, I have something to tell you, but I don't know how to tell you." I said, "Well, whatever you got to tell me, just go ahead and tell me. Everything's good." And she said, "Well, we've been stealing from you the whole time we've been here." I said, "What do you mean you've been stealing from me?" She goes, "Well, every time you've left the room or when you went to get Cokes, we stole money out of your wallet. We've been going through your things. Becky took a bunch of your pot." And I said, "Well, I appreciate you telling me, but I've been sharing everything open with you. You don't have to, And that was the first time she gave an indication that there was anything else, that there was anything more involved. And she said, "Well, yeah, I really don't have a choice." So, and then later I found out that they're informants for Willie, that she was facing multiple open cases and charges, including extradition to other states. and they bent over backwards for her. She was facing a mandatory minimum because of a habitual criminal enhancement. She was facing a minimum of, I believe, 6 years in prison. And instead, she got nolo contendere. She wasn't even prosecuted. And it's not on the books. There's no official agreement. It just disappeared. Shit like that. And there's more stuff that we brought up in court. But the judge was on their side. And we had so much difficulty in proving anything. But we did. We managed to. So that was the first indication that I had. But I didn't catch it at the time, that there was something more behind this. I don't... How much detail?
1 second. But at trial, Angel testified that she took $4. She gave Becky $2. And the first responding police officer testified that Angel informed him that she had stolen $3 and Becky had taken $10. Becky, on the other hand, testified that Angel took a couple of dollars while Becky grabbed a handful of change. Now,
right. And actually, there was more. And I'm talking about just as far as documented, as far as either statements or in testimony, there's actually 4 different accounts just from Angel on what the amount of money was. It was anywhere from $3 to $13 to $21 and $11, I believe.
In retrospect, all of that was pennies, really, in comparison to, the ginormous escalation of events that took place. I mean, nobody's going to go through the roof for $5 or $10 or $3 or even $20, in fact, right?
Exactly. And this point actually works against me if you stop here, but I have to be honest and tell all the details. But it was actually much more than that. So somebody could say, well, they stole a lot of money, so you flipped out. I can understand somebody thinking that. But no, it was actually, the amount was far greater than $3 or $13 or whatever nonsense amounts that they gave. They stole everything out of my wallet, and I had between 450 and 470 when I went to the bar. Say that I spent 20, because I don't drink at all. I had 2 drinks at the bar all night long. So say I had between 430 and 450 in cash. There was ounces of marijuana that was missing. There was jewelry, $1,000 Citizen Eco Drive, $800, not to exaggerate, $800, Citizen Eco Drive, rings, gifts, jewelry from fighters, from friends, lovers, my ex-wife. I collect, Oriental and Asian martial arts history, historical things, pre-World War II stuff that's kind of valuable, and I had that kind of stuff there. And some of it's very small and easy to steal, and they took all of that kind of stuff. It was thousands and thousands of dollars that they stole from me. So someone could say, well, there's just motivation there. He flipped out. Except the fact that we were able to prove that none of the stuff that they said happened. So they did steal the money. She admitted it. I confronted her. We came back in. The other woman, Becky, denied it immediately. Even after her friend, basically ratted her out, she denied it, continued to deny it. They started getting an argument. Angel saying, he's been nothing but nice to us. He's been good to us. Give him his money back.
So at this point, do you think Angel was being genuine?
Now I have no way of knowing. She seemed genuine, but I've also learned she is a pathological liar. She cries on cue, on command.
Because you've got to ask yourself, then what was her motive and what was her agenda for telling you that that's what they had done? They had both done it.
I think looking back, she may have been afraid, realizing that the situation. She's pretty street smart. She's been either charged or convicted of just about every type of crime. She's pretty experienced. I think she may have thought she got herself into a dangerous situation, possibly, or that she might want to have a fall guy if anything didn't go right.
Okay, so in other words, she had an ulterior motive for wanting to switch, bearing in mind that they'd actually already got quite a sizable amount from you. That if, once they departs, it was a good take, right?
Yeah, it was a good take, and plus, as we found out later, from Angel's ex-husband, we found out from Becky Brissett's best friend, from her nephew. These are things that they discussed, and a lot of times people are like, "Well, it's hearsay." Well, the thing is that there was a lot of ways that it's not hearsay, and both of those women admitted to numerous people that not only did not what they accused me of happen, that they set me up.
Okay, let's because we're gonna. I would imagine we're gonna hit that sort of part when we get to the retrial or the appeal and the exoneration. So take us through what I mean. I know what they say happened, but tell us what you remember happening thereafter, up until the point that the police arrive. What do you remember happening?
Okay, I want to give it to you all clearly, succinctly, all the big points. But I don't want to spend all of it on this because it was all live.
No. I get that. I just want the audience to get an understanding of the enormity of the conspiracy, the lie, the setup. Because in reality, the reality of this is, Jason, you were sentenced to 40 to 80 years. Now, that's a huge sentence. And when we're talking about admitting stealing $5 and $2 and $3 and giving $2 back, right? It just, do you see where I'm coming from now, right? Because we're not talking about you had a probation or 40 to 80 years. If you hadn't have gone through the courts of appeal, if you hadn't have fought, if you hadn't have been able to prove your innocence, you would have been serving 40 to 80 years. That's a huge sentence.
Yeah,
right?
It was an enormous sentence, and I actually got sentenced to it. And I sat in prison for about 4.5 years while I fought these ridiculously false, crazy charges.
So let's get to these lies. Because it was the lies that was able to create a platform for that huge sentence.
So what happened in reality, they began arguing about who stole the money, if any money was stolen. Becky went from denying it to gradually admitting it, but saying it was Angel. It was all Angel's idea in the first place. And there's the second indication there's more involved. And Becky said that that's what they had come here to do, and it was all Angel's fault. So they shifted blame on each other. But I was tending to believe Angel more because Angel told me first, and Becky denied everything up until like 10 minutes of Angel yelling at her. And then she still wouldn't admit the amount. And then when Becky said that Angel actually still had all of the money and was trying to blame it on her, that's when Angel flipped the switch. She flew off the bed, attacked her friend, punched her in the face. They started catfighting, grabbed each other by the hair, swinging each other around. They worked from my bedroom side of my office to the office side, crashed into furniture. I was letting them go because I just didn't want to get in the middle of it. But then they started crashing back towards the bedroom side and towards my big screen, and I had a huge big screen right there. So I took that opportunity to make a decision, and they were both right by the bed. So I just pushed them backwards, and the bed hit them both behind the knees, and they just flopped over on the bed. I yelled at them to stop, and they stopped and separated.
Okay, so
that was the first altercation.
Okay. There were more?
Yeah. So Angel at that point, I told him to stop. Angel acted like she wanted to continue, but she stopped. But she was in a very aggressive, threatening posture. And at that point, Becky admitted it. She said, okay. It's in my pants. I'll get it. So that's the first time that any money was retrieved. She reached down inside her pants and her underwear and pulled out some bills and it was a handful of ones. And I'm like, there's a whole lot more missing than that. So basically, the rest of the night, from what really happened, was gradually getting more and more money given back to me after listening to them argue and blame each other about who still had what, where it was, why it happened. And then Angel alternately, acting like she was on my side and apologetic and sorry. I had been providing cigarettes and drink. They didn't have any of their own cigarettes and both smoked. Around this time, we hadn't quite run out of cigarettes. I think I still had a few left, but I smoked menthol. And Becky asked, she said she was all, had a bunch of anxiety because she just had this fight with Angel. Could she get a cigarette, but she wanted a regular cigarette. I told her I don't have regulars. I smoke menthol. And then I regret this for the rest of my life. And then thought occurred to me. I was like, well, my brother downstairs, he smokes regulars. He'll give you a cigarette. At that point, I inadvertently involved one of my best friends. He's been a friend of mine since I was a young boy. And he's still in prison.
Okay. Okay.
So I suggested that since I was also running out of rum and they were asking for something else to drink, it was Becky again. I said, well, I know he drinks vodka. I said, I don't have any other alcohol because I don't drink much. And you guys drank up my rum. So because she wanted a regular cigarette and something else to drink, and I wanted to get the rest of my money back, and I thought that I could talk them out of my money, maybe salvage something, do something good.
Do you think that was? Do you think that was still part of your arrogance, thinking that they're probably not as good at getting one over on you as they think? And
I'm thinking, what are these two going to do to me?
Okay.
And so anyway, I took them downstairs to meet my friend, my longtime friend Leroy. I'm sorry, could you give me a moment?
Yeah. I can imagine when you've been convicted of a crime and spent years in prison trying to set yourself free, even just trying to relive those moments as you remember them can be quite emotional. And it's quite understandable that Jason would be emotional at this point in time, because had he not been exonerated, had he not been set free, he would have been probably around about to the 5th or 6th year serving of a 40 to 80 year sentence for a crime that didn't even take place. Now, we're going to be getting to this very shortly. We've still got about an hour and a bit left to go of this show, and we're going to be getting to the appeal and the exoneration and the evidence that was put forward in that, so that you can get a real understanding of just how these lies were overturned and the truth eventually came out. Although the truth, I believe, was always told in the original trial, is just that the jury and the judge didn't believe it. But we're going to get to all of that very shortly as Jason composes himself, and we'll get him right back in the picture just as soon as he's ready. But I just want you to go ahead, Jason.
Thank you for that, and I'm good to go again. And the part that really gets me emotional is I'm a pretty tough guy. I'm pretty strong-willed, and what happened to me, I was dealing with and still am. But what really breaks my heart is that my good friend is still in prison for something that never even happened.
I mean, we can talk about that in a moment, because the bottom line is, if I still don't get how you could be exonerated, but he wasn't. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Now, at some point, the police arrive at your home, and can you tell us how that came about? Who called them, and how did they turn up?
Yeah, after getting
an incidental amount of money returned to me, and the jewelry and that type of stuff back. There was still money and marijuana missing. But there had been a couple more altercations, mostly screaming, yelling matches, but there had been another serious physical altercation where Angel attacked Becky again.
So can I just ask you at that point, Jason, why didn't you call the police? They're in your home. They're stealing from you. They're fighting in your gym. They're stealing from you. They're fighting. Why didn't you call the police if you couldn't control it?
You see what happened, right? I do not trust them. I've never trusted them. I've grown up in Detroit. Almost every experience I've had with law enforcement has been bad. I have known almost nothing except corrupt cops or cops who use their power to abuse. When I was a little boy, anyway, I don't trust cops.
Here's the
it's
thing.
also against my moral. Yeah. It's against my moral code.
Here's the
Here's
the thing, Jim. Here's the thing, Jason. I grew up in a very similar background, and calling the police would be the last thing, if at all, that we would ever do, if we were confronted by a situation, whether we felt that we could handle it, control it, or not. Calling the police was never an option. We'd either deal with it or it would deal with us, and then we would move on to tomorrow.
That's exactly the truth, and so few people understand that because they haven't gone through that.
Yeah. So I get where you're coming from. With some of the bad experiences that we've had with law enforcement over the years, there are many people that I know that calling police will be something that would not even be on their agenda. If they couldn't manage it or deal with it themselves, then that was it. It was done. And that would be the end of the matter, or they'd find another way to respond and react to it. So the police eventually arrived at your gym, and I just want to get to this point because a lot of this was said that this was done in some sort of a basement, but the police said that you denied that there was even a basement, and protested that the police needed a warrant when they arrived. Do you remember any of that?
Yes, I do. And so let me tell you, lead up to what them being called, arriving, and my response. So after the second time that Angel physically beat Becky, I said I had enough. It was like, I'm trying to remember. I think it was like 5:30 in the morning or 5:45, something like that. And I told them that they had to go. Well, Becky said she was too drunk to drive, and wanted me to take her home, or at least over to where her car was at, which was parked at a different bar, not at Hickey's. So after denying that they had drunk anything, or been at the bar, it turned out that they had started drinking earlier the night at this other bar before coming to Hickey's to find me.
So coming to Hickey's to find you, did they come specifically looking for you?
Yes, that's what we found. That's what we found out from her ex-husband, from Becky's nephew, from multiple witnesses. We had over 40 witnesses on our witness list the second time. The judge refused them, most of them.
Let's just get let me
make this point, please. Okay. Friends and family of the supposed victims, not my friends, not my family. I didn't know these people. They came forward on their own after listening to years of how they set me up. They came forward. My fiance now, Farah Trejak, came forward. She was at a party. And when this girl, Angel, was bragging about how the chief of police, Detective Willie, sent her to me in my gym to set me up, and how she's put me in prison and she got a get out of jail free card for the rest of her life.
My question is, at the time that you bumped into them, you assumed it was an accidental meeting.
I did.
So it's only after, during the investigations, you found out that it was a deliberate rendezvous in order to meet up with you.
Correct.
Okay. Carry on, Jason. Just carry on telling the story for us. I will interject every time I have a point to make, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. So, and there was craziness between the girls, and then just stories throughout the night. But and then me trying to help, and then realizing it after that last explosion between the two that it was pretty much a lost cause. I had gotten back what I was going to get. I was willing to call it a wrap and be done with it. Take them home. I agreed to do that. Now, where they are in my brother's apartment downstairs that I am renting. Well, I'm just giving it to him. I don't even charge him rent. That he's living down there. There is an exit, an outside exit that has a lit neon sign that goes directly outside to the alley. There is an exit from the bathroom. It is a shared bathroom with the business on the other side. There is an open door exit that is clearly said exit. None of those doors were locked. The police verified none of those doors were locked. They could have left at any time. They were not kidnapped. They were not held against their will. Any of that nonsense that they said. And if they truly were held there, if I was an idiot who kidnapped them and held them there, I left them multiple doors for them to leave out of. So anyway, so you're going to tell me I didn't know my own business and the doors, and none of it made sense. So I went upstairs. I told them I was going to make some coffee, since she was too drunk to drive. I am at sometimes. Anyway, I went up to make coffee. I was out of coffee in the gym. So I said I was going to get in the truck. We had run out of cigarettes previously. I'm going to get in the truck. I'm going to run to the gas station. I'm going to get some coffee for all of us, and I'm going to buy some cigarettes. Who goes to the store and buys coffee and cigarettes for their kidnap? I don't get it. So as I go back downstairs. Now, in the time that I went upstairs to make the coffee, I found out is when they made the call to 911. Angel called 911. She said that they had been kidnapped and beaten and
tortured,
threatened to be killed, tortured. Right. So after I went back downstairs, checked on them, hey, you guys need anything else? They acted like everything was fine. I went back upstairs, left my gym, went out the front door to get in my truck to go to the gas station. I walked out of my building. I walked to the front of my truck, started getting in my truck, and at that time, two cops came up from alongside my building up the alley. They were not visible. We were not visible to each other when I first came out, all the way until I started entering my vehicle. They said, hey, hold on a minute. You're Jason, aren't you? And the one talking was the young one who I had some previous contact with. He had pulled me over for a light that had been out at one time. And then also he had come over at the direction of the chief of police. And I had heard it over the radio one time. The other two times I had been told this by the chief of police brother-in-law, who I had already mentioned, who was a friend and supporter of mine. He came and told us that we could not train outside of my gym, that I could not have my fighters doing any type of calisthenics or shadow boxing or mitt work in the parking lot. And I protested, and I told him that it's a private lot. Those spots come with my lease, and I'll do what I damn well please on my spot unless there's a city ordinance that says I cannot shadow box outside. Please remove yourself and your police vehicle from my property. So he did. And we continued to train outside. So I did have previous contact there. And Willie told them to tell us that we couldn't train outside. He asked me if I was Jason. I acknowledged that I was. He came over and said, well, hold on, you can't go anywhere. Do you have anybody here with you at the gym? And first I said, yes. And then I started thinking about the circumstances. And again, cops in our previous conversation. So then I said, no, well, just my brother downstairs. My brother meaning Leroy Cope. And then he said, well, we got a call from somebody saying that they were in danger and being held here. So as soon as he said that, I put all of the pieces together, and I was immediately defensive and trying to figure out what was going on, what the angle was, and who was playing it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they then said, can we go in? And I said, not without a warrant. And then they said, well, there's an emergency. We can go in if we want to. I said, you're right. If there's exigent circumstances. I said, so are you telling me that's what you're doing? He said, yes. I said, well, the door's open. We walked in together. He said, well, can you go in with us? Will you please step in with us? I did. I complied. I walked in. They started looking around, and they said, oh, is this the gym? Yeah, this is the gym. And then they asked me, they said, he said, do you have a basement or do you live in the basement? At that point, I got cute. I said, I do not live in the basement. I was trying to avoid the answer and still.
You didn't live in the basement. You rented it out.
Correct.
Yeah. No, I get that. Okay.
I was being honest, but I was avoiding. I mean, I was doing the best I could. But once he had told me what was said, I knew there was the only way that if possible was if there was no victim. So when they asked me if there was there's a basement, I paused, and then he asked me, did I live in the basement? No. So then he walked to the back, and then he came back from the back, and he said, there's stairs back there. Where do they go? I said, they go to the basement. He goes, I just asked you if there was a basement, and you told me there wasn't a basement. I said, no, what I said was I don't live in the basement. Mm-hmm. So he goes, well, I need to check the basement. You hold him. He talked to his partner and said, you hold him. He said, well, please stand here with me. So I stood there with the other cop. He went downstairs, came back up, said, I heard voices. There's music going on, people talking. Do you think I should go in? His buddy said, yeah, I'll stay here. I'll stay here with him. He went back downstairs, went in, and then all of a sudden there's yelling and screaming. And it went immediately from the conversation and music being on downstairs that they were having with Leroy to screaming. And at first, Angel resisted. When they first responded, that officer actually body slammed at Angel because she rushed at him. Again, more crazy behavior. She rushed at the cop that she just called, that she said was because she was being kidnapped. But we found out later that she was there. So there's a lot of issues there. There's drug abuse. There's serious mental issues. She's been committed. There's a lot of stuff that I had no clue of what I was dealing with.
So 1 second. Okay, so part of the evidence that the women gave was that that they were beaten, that they were tortured, and that they were duct taped to poles. Right?
Correct.
When the police arrived?
About 6 a.m.
Okay. I take it because when the police arrived, you was outside of the building.
Correct.
And you were brought back in. But your brother was downstairs still with them.
Right, and he is not my blood brother. I call him brother. He is my lifelong friend.
Okay.
He was a guy who was a guy in the neighborhood when I was like 8, and he took me under his wing, and he's been a mentor and a friend to me for a very long time.
Okay, so the police they eventually go downstairs, and when they go downstairs, then they start to hear all the screaming.
No, they don't go downstairs and start to hear all the screaming. They go downstairs, and what he reported he heard when he came back upstairs was general conversation, no duress, nothing, conversation and music. After he went back downstairs and opened the door and announced himself, That is when the screaming started, and when Angel rushed him, and then he body slammed her.
Okay. So, my point being, the suggestion is that both of you had them falsely imprisoned. So,
correct.
With you leaving the building, and you've left us, I believe that Mr. Cope was about 65 years of age. If these two were not, when the police arrived, they weren't duct taped to no poles, they weren't handcuffed to no radiators. They were free to run around because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to charge at him and get body slammed.
Correct.
Is the insinuation that these two were not able to overcome a 65-year-old man?
Yes, and not only that, like I said, I am indebted to this man, but he used to be a fighter. He used to study Kung Fu, and he still helps me. I would still have him help me in the gym as much as he could. He would give instruction. He would help clean the mats. But he was very feeble. He had early onset dementia, related to alcoholism. He was in very bad shape, and I was taking care of him. That's just if they wanted to leave, they could have just outwalked him to the door. That's the physical state that
I mean, for all intents and purposes, from where I'm sitting, from the moment you left the premises, from the moment you walked out of that door, if they were in fear for their lives or their well-being in any way, shape, or form, he would have been somebody that between the two of them, that they would have been able to overpower and get out. Or at least one of them would have been able to get out.
Well, not only that, recall, I left many times during the night. There's multiple areas in my building. There's apartments upstairs. There's the gym. I went upstairs looking for the lost money that they claimed. They said that when they realized that they were busted or whatever, they threw money under the bed and under the desk and in the desk. So I spent a lot of time getting direction from them about where things were at and looking for it. I was gone many times, and there are, like I said, 2 exits right there. There's one in the stairwell that goes out to the alley that they had access to the entire time. They said that they were held. The other access, what they said that they went to the bathroom twice. There's another door out of the bathroom. There's 2 common doors to the bathroom, and there is an exit on the opposite side of the other door in the bathroom. They had 2 exits the entire night. So, and the one is an emergency fire door exit. There's no way to lock it from the inside. It is a push bar opening. Do you understand what type I'm talking about? There's no interior lock. There's pictures taken. I had no type of padlock or anything set up on the inside. Nothing. It has the emergency fire door, a push bar lock. They could have pushed that open at any time if they truly were held or anything like that.
You know, we're getting to the point because we only have 45 minutes, and I do know at some point we want to get to the exoneration and the appeal. So I just want to skip to some points if we can.
Okay.
Cope's statement, Cope's evidence. There was a lot of discrepancy on that, right?
Yeah, and I'll get to that real quick. So, as far as the rest of the events of the night, people can read what they're interested. There was just a compilation of lies, as we found out why later. Cope, very, very simply, he didn't make statements against me. Cope did not. He said that I never touched them, hurt them, threatened them, that I was a good man, that I was taking care of him, that I was trying to help them even though they stole from me. So from the very beginning, me getting arrested, him and I having no time to talk or conspire, that's what he told the police, that I was talking to them and trying to help them, that they stole money from me, but I was trying to give them a better way and still help them. That's the first thing he told the cops. Him and I never had a chance to talk ahead of time before the cops got there. The other thing, Cope never made a statement to get me. His attorney in court did. And a couple times when his attorney was doing that, Cope one time stood up at the defense table, and just 2 other times he said out loud or to the other assistant attorneys at his table, I never said that. Jason didn't do this. I didn't say these things. He said this in open court. His attorney filed the duress defense. His attorney, I have prior contact with. And let's just say has very close relations with both the prosecutor and the chief of police of Ishpeming. He filed the duress defense on behalf of Leroy, even though Leroy said he was never under duress. I don't know how when someone makes a statement in open court, your attorney then tells the court, no, this is his position. So anyway, he never made a statement against me. He actually said to the contrary to things his attorney said. And then after the fact, after the first trial, his attorney told my attorney he said, well, if I knew you had all this evidence and witness that he didn't do it, I never would have filed the duress defense. I just assumed he was guilty and was trying to get my client off. That was his excuse for cooperating and trying to set me up. But Leroy stated in open court that wasn't true, and it's good enough for me. I know him. I have his complete his statement to the police when he was being interviewed. And all he did was tell the truth repeatedly. So I have no problem with,
okay. So let's put that to one side. Secondly, the two girls, the two women, right?
Yes, they were women. One was in her mid late 30s. The other was mid late 40s. I think it's 35 and 47, something like that. 33 and 47.
They both told conflicting stories.
Wildly conflicting stories. Their own stories didn't agree with. They each had at least 3 versions. Becky, actually, I know exactly how many. Becky had 3 main versions of events. Angel had 7.
Wow. But neither one of them, neither account matched up with the one that the other one had.
No, if you put all 10 versions together, none of them match except for some minor occurrences, and even those are argued about. So anyway, it's insane. It's insane. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I truly felt all during this process in court, and then when I was sitting in prison, I truly felt like I was in the Twilight Zone, that I was innocent and everybody was convinced I was guilty, and there was nothing I could do about it. It just didn't matter what the truth was.
Becky testified that after being hit, she grabbed onto the curtains and pulled them off.
Yep, yes, she did.
But yet the police pictures showed that the curtains were still intact and installed on the window.
The curtains still up, I know. But there's so many things even more. But those are just like tiny incidental details, and you see it once you go through it and you know it.
The vagina search. Becky also testified that
supposedly.
Supposedly
now, and then it was admitted that was finally admitted that it never happened. But they originally Angel denied it, and then she was convinced by Chief Willie to say that it happened, and we have that on tape now because we have the interview tapes they kept from us the first time. The Chief Willie just flat out lied and encouraged them to lie. It's obvious that they had prior contact because he references previous conversations. So we do know that he did indeed send them at me. We do not know the true motivation because we've had different stories as far as why he sent them at me. But I actually think it's a combination of all of the above. I just think that everybody involved didn't have all the pieces of the information. And I only now have it, and I know there's still stuff I don't know.
So, and both women claimed that they were choked, and yet there was no signs, no marks, no bruising.
Correct.
And Becky claimed that you burned her on the face with a lit cigarette.
Correct. And then she later claimed she remembered that all of a sudden that not only did I burn her on her face, but also in other multiple areas of her body. Those other multiple areas of her body were her mess sores that were previously documented in other images prior to being at my gym. She had an open mess sore on her face and on her chest and arms that we have pictures of, and we have pictures of her prior to her coming to my gym. We had a medical expert the second time. The first time the judge denied it. They did everything they could to railroad me. The second time I just didn't allow it. The second time I made sure if there was any area where it was an area of discernment for the court,
I made sure that I paid for it or had it paid for. I didn't allow anything to chance or for them to rule against me in ways that would prevent me from the truth being told like they did the first time. And I also, even though they tried to shut me up, when I testified, I told the complete story on the stand. And I refused to listen to the judge or the prosecutor when they tried to tell me to stop talking.
So, you've got all of these different versions of events that take place. They were all exposed, discussed, evidence given during your trial.
Correct.
And yet the jury still found you guilty.
Yes, because the first time we weren't able to do all that. The first time we were completely prevented from even exploring the avenue of a defense is the fact that they actually committed a crime against me and attacked each other. We were ruled against. The judge would not allow us to even mention that in our defense. But yeah, all of the things that I claimed at the first trial that they claimed were crazy, make-believe Hollywood movie defenses were all proved true, including by their own interview tapes that they withheld. They kept evidence. You don't do that if you are right. You don't do that if you are honorable. The reason they kept them out is because point blank, and we got to play it in court, even though the judge tried to stop us. Thank God to the arrogance and ignorance of the cops. I wasn't the only one ignorant and arrogant. We had these interview tapes that they kept from us the first time. I just want to go into this because it's really important. A huge discovery violation, and obviously it was intentional. The second time they gave them to us on accident. They had to re-give us the evidence. They gave us everything. First time my attorney talked to me, my new attorney had said, "Hey, I'm looking at these interview tapes with Angel Parrish." I'm like, "There's no interview tapes." He's like, "Yeah, there is. I'm looking at them." I knew immediately. They capture the lies. They capture Chief of Police, Detective Willie, instructing them how to lie, what to charge me with, what to say that I did. And even though we got this evidence the second time, they still tried to keep it out. They said we couldn't use it as material evidence. We could only use it as rebuttal. Thank God this cop got on the stand and kept lying, and we were able to keep playing portions of the tape to keep proving him wrong. If he would have just got smart and refused to answer or said, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that," we would have been done, cut off at the knees. But one of the hugest thing of the trial was this idiot kept keeping to his original story, his original statement from the first trial. And we were prepared. I had already, because I was there, I knew I had drafted like 200 questions for my attorney to trip him up on. And he just kept tripping and tripping. And then they kept allowing us to play the video. And you could see everyone's faces in the courtroom change. It was a movie moment.
So in effect, the two trials were like chalk and cheese. Absolutely, totally different.
Oh, absolutely.
In the way that they were delivered.
Absolutely.
So why do
and there is no excuse. There was an active, regardless of when it occurred or why they occurred. The case should have never been heard by the judge who heard it, Judge Mizuki. Never should have been prosecuted by the prosecutor. Judge Mizuki and the prosecutor have had a personal relationship that is an ethical violation. They should not be hearing cases in front of each other. There's a nepotism and a corruption that is very deep in the Marquette system that this case has exposed, and it's been talked about and rumored for years. They threatened me to not have any media attention or to talk about my case, or that they would charge me with new charges, including gun charges. They had the feds arrest me. The feds then dismissed the charges because they realized they were lied to. The information letter, charging letter from Willie, after he realized they were going to lose the second trial, he wrote a letter to the federal prosecutor in Marquette asking him to charge me for federal gun charges, and he misrepresented the facts to try to get me convicted again. So it basically 3 times this man tried to set me up and ruin my life. Thankfully, the federal magistrate had been following my case and already knew the facts and was disgusted. I heard this, and this is behind the scenes discussion. This is stuff that I'm getting from kitchen table, from people who know, and
So the results are he dismissed the charges against me. I was still told by all law enforcement in Marquette County, including my friends and attorneys, because they had been warned as well, that I needed to leave not only the county of Marquette, but Michigan, or I would be charged with something else. So I left and I came out to Colorado. And we'll get into that in a minute, but I just wanted you to know how that developed. They all knew, the judge, including Judge Mizuki, prosecutor. I'm so disgusted. But anyway, and the chief of police from the very beginning. So, and this again, not rumors. We have statements, we have testimony, we have the video. It's a bad movie doesn't have all of this in it. And so much of it was just personal because they didn't like the fact that I was an ex-con. They didn't like the fact that a couple of the town's women liked me. They didn't like that I was successful and an ex-con. And they tried to destroy me over it. They did destroy so much. And the people that they were jealous of, they destroyed. The people that they supposedly, I don't understand. My ex-wife had to move out of town. Amanda was persecuted for years. It's just craziness.
So majority of what we're seeing here is far greater than just a crime gone wrong. This is a whole conspiracy of corruption. Yeah. I mean, at one point, your ex-wife, Sarah, went down into the basement. Yes. She went into the basement and saw the women. Did the women agree? Did their testimony ever confirm that your ex-wife went down into the basement and saw them drinking?
No, and I wouldn't expect it would, because when Sarah looked in, she did it trying not to be seen. Sarah is not a party girl. Sarah is a good girl. Sarah is an EMT. She was paralyzed on the job. Sarah is an angel. People have no idea of this woman's character. And anyway, so yeah, she looked in, she saw them. But she looked through she opened the door just enough to look through the crack and look in. And she wasn't trying to be seen. And she berated me when she knew that there were people there, that I had let people in the downstairs living quarters where there was the prep room for a grow up. So she was mad that I had let strangers know that I had any marijuana operations going there, and she was right. But I was caught up in trying to help people in my white knight thing that I've been accused of a lot, and then got caught up and just was trying to get my stuff back and make the best of a horrible situation that I had no idea of what it really was.
Okay, so I do want to get to this, because in the second trial in 2017, prior to the trial, the defense, you discovered that Paris was interviewed by Ishpeming police officer Brent Zebrowski.
Correct. These are in those interview tapes I was told you that they said never existed the first time.
Yeah, and he had not written up the interview or disclosed the interview to the defense, right?
That is correct. So
and in that interview, Paris said that she had no injuries to her neck, which was a very different description than at her trial testimony, in which she said that you had violently choked her.
Yes, because in those same tapes, not with Zebrowski, but when she is with Detective Willie tells her to say that I choked her and hurt her while I choked her. So that's when, after he then told her what to say, she then changed her story.
But then Zebrowski testified that he didn't recall interviewing Paris. However, the defense played audio taken from a dashboard camera in his car, during which Paris was heard to say her neck was okay.
That is correct. And you're actually referencing multiple points of different evidence and different tapes and video. Mm-hmm. But yes, and all of them all point to me telling the truth, and all point to them, and including the interview tapes they kept from us the first time. They prove it point blank. There's no way you can listen to them and watch them and not understand that I was set up.
Yeah. In respect, how come? Because I've got one of my guests or audience who's listening in who's just posed this question. You've been exonerated. Why is Cope still imprisoned?
Because of the defense his attorney chose. A lot of people who aren't attorneys don't understand that the avenue that you choose for your defense limits you down the line for appeals. And because his attorney chose a active defense, which means basically the crime happened, but it's not my fault, because you don't get a chance of appeal if you end up getting ruled against, if you go with an affirmative defense. So because his attorney said that Cope was saying, yes, something really happened, but I didn't do it, or it wasn't my fault, which, by the way, he never said, and said in open court that that's not what he said. But the court allowed him to be convicted that way. Everybody heard it. It's referenced in the second trial. So it was a collusion on all levels. I want people to understand that. And the reason why he's still in prison is because his attorney colluded with the fucking, I'm sorry for my language, I apologize greatly, but this has been horrible years of torment. And because his attorney chose that affirmative defense, the Court of Appeals.
But doesn't common sense, your
common sense does not
your appeal,
sense, you know that.
Your appeal has proved that the crime didn't even take place.
You know this. You know you've had enough dealing with the law. You know it does not. Common sense does not matter. You are restricted to what the statute, what the letter of the law says you can do as far as your application and avenue for appeal. So now, because his attorney did that, because his attorney cooperated with the prosecution, they in effect signed his death warrant and could care less. He is a feeble old man who is ready to die, and he did nothing wrong.
Wow. You know,
so my only avenue is to try to raise enough money to where I can file what is called a writ of habeas corpus. It is the only avenue we have left to us, but the type of legal avenue that it is, I cannot get a public defender or any legal assistance to do it. I have to pay an attorney to do it. And right now, having been homeless for the last year after getting out of prison and just now starting working, I haven't even begun to save anywhere near enough to try to do that for him. But I want to get that done.
It must have been a horrific experience. The day that you were originally sentenced to 40 to 80 years of your life. Take me back to that day just for a moment. You're in the dock. You know the crime didn't take place. You haven't done anything wrong. You're hoping and praying that people are just going to see the light and wake up and smell the coffee and you're going to be going home. At that moment when you're sentenced to 40 to 80 years, how did that leave you feeling?
I'm a bit of a fatalist, and I've had a tough life. And I was hoping beyond hope that, yes, the truth would be known. But I was like, yeah, what else was it going to be? I'm a bad guy. They told the whole world I'm a bad guy. And, you know, I had a rough childhood. And I grew up rough. But anybody who knows you will tell you I'm not a bad guy.
Your friend Cope was sentenced to 25 to 40 years. Even though very little of the evidence or the testimony from the two women actually relates to him.
Yeah, none of it. Actually, none of it relates to him. They said he didn't do anything to them, and that only his attorney said that. He is trapped because of his attorney. He is trapped because of what his attorney did. He is imprisoned because of his attorney colluded with the prosecution to try to send me to prison.
So in their attempt to get you to prison, an innocent man is serving 25 to 40 years.
Correct.
And could well die in prison.
Correct.
sometimes you're left speechless by what you hear. We can go through this over and over again. But it's been a long road back for you, Jason. Your life was taken from you, stripped away, torn apart, turned upside down. How many years did you spend incarcerated for a crime you didn't commit before going before the courts of appeal?
4.5.
And that in that 4.5 years, what was that experience like for you? And I know you'd been to jail before, and you wasn't altogether a good guy, but I mean, most of us we go to jail. Sorry, Jason. One second, Jason. When we're in prison for crimes that we commit, we can get down and just get on with it, and yeah, we're frustrated. Sometimes we even plead innocent when we know we're guilty, but when we're sentenced, we just dust that off and get on with the sentence. But when you're innocent and you know you're innocent, and more importantly, when you're innocent and you know you're innocent and no crime has been committed, how does it feel being sent down? And at the point you didn't know you was only going to spend 4.5 years in jail because your sentence was 40 to 80 years. Tell me how those first days and months behind prison walls felt like for you.
It was crushing. The first time it was completely different, just for all the reasons that you just said. I am a man of will. I knew that's what it was, and I had to face what I had to face, and so I did each day as they came. But that also led to my problems when I got out, because my reputation followed me. When I was in the first time, I was not going to be dictated, bullied to, just the way when I grew up in Detroit. And so that gave me the reputation of a bad guy with corrections department and law enforcement. And so on paper, I look like a bad guy. I've had tons of fights, tons and tons of fights, but they've all been with men. So the feeling was, what else am I going to expect? I'm a bad guy. They're convinced I'm a bad guy. What else is going to happen? I felt like I was trapped in the twilight zone, like I said before, because I knew the truth, and everybody else was just convinced of the other. I lost relationships. I lost my gym. I lost a successful fight team. Property, vehicles, money. But it's the relationships. Even after being exonerated, I have people that refuse to have anything to do with me. I have women that tell me that they love me, but they can't even talk to me because their family ostracizes them. Careers ruined, opportunities ruined.
Wow. Are you okay, Jason? Are you okay?
It's just been tough.
Okay.
And I am far from an angel, and I'm a tough guy. But I've always been good to people, and I try to help. And I just can't believe that they did this to me.
Well, Jason, at some point in 2017, you were exonerated on March the 17th, 2017, you were acquitted. And before you could be released, you was arrested by federal authorities on a charge of illegal possession of a firearm.
That is correct. That was what I mentioned earlier with Detective Willie continuing the false charges, false narrative. The gun was not mine. They knew it wasn't mine. They tried to use it as leverage. They tried to use it as leverage against Sarah. They tried to make this woman who gave her life to that community, who was paralyzed on the job serving those people up there. They threatened her with prison, with a gun charge, if she wouldn't testify and say that it was mine. She refused. Well, of course, they didn't have the evidence to go after her, but the fact that they even threatened her. Yeah. And so Willie then had the federal prosecutor arrest me on it, saying it was mine, that I had because it was in my area, I had possession of it, therefore it was mine. But that's the charge that I referred to earlier that the magistrate dismissed and told the people in no uncertain terms, the state officials, that the feds would not be manipulated and be a party of this travesty.
So, this hard road back to freedom, I can tell, is a very emotional one. You've mentioned on several occasions throughout the interview that you lost relationships. How has that building process been working since you've been released? Have you managed to rebuild some of those bridges and relationships?
Somewhat. My relationship with my ex-wife is even more strained now. That's just to do the nature of all the stress and everything that we've been through even before this. And then, my relationship now with Farah, my fiance. And so it's just difficult. So it's very difficult for us. There's things that will never be repaired to be able to get past. My relationship with Amanda is virtually destroyed and ruined. She is now a corrections officer, so her employment, her family, her friends, none of them want her to have anything to do with me. We talk occasionally, but just recently she asked me if I wouldn't, because it was leading to problems again. Apparently somebody found out, I don't know. But I have love for her, so I'm going to do what she asked. Farah Trajak has been amazing. You asked about rebuilding. And we're not perfect. We both have struggles and issues, and we're trying to work and make things happen as we're trying to restart our lives. But she came and testified on my behalf. She didn't know me. She also has the same exact background that we talked about with the aversion to police. She would never testify. It's against her code. The exact type of personality I'm talking about. And she came forward because she was so moved by the despicable things that this girl Angel had told her. And she volunteered, and I didn't even know. I had no idea that this woman even existed.
So, relationships still broken, very difficult to mend. You mentioned at the very beginning, and you've also mentioned a couple of times in between, that you're still currently homeless.
Correct.
How is life for you? How do you manage, Jason? How are you living?
Well, for the last year, I have been doing day labor and construction during the day, and bouncing at strip clubs at night. So I've been working doubles and triples as much as I can. I was getting a hotel. The economy cost of living in Denver is really expensive, but it's where I need to be if I want to reopen my gym. So I was working, doubles and triples, and like every 3 days I'd get a room at a hotel at the cheapest motel in town, which was, still $70 a night. And the other, I usually sleep 2 or 3 nights a row in my Jeep and get a night at the motel. Just recently, my employment situation has improved. I don't want people thinking that I'm doing worse than I am. I just got a significant pay increase and promotion. I was working temp labor. Short story. The owner of the company that contracted the temp labor was on the job site, was watching me work. He watched me work for an hour, and he came over and asked me if I wanted a foreman job. So I'm now working for him, a foreman for concrete restoration systems and Malibu pools. Daniel Lackey has been very good to me. So shortly I should be able to pull myself out of the immediate, not being able to have a place, and then start paying my bills off and all the things that I incurred, because I'm in debt. They took everything when I went to prison. They've given me nothing back. I have lawsuits against the state. The state is fighting the state lawsuit, and my federal lawsuits have not been paid or filed yet. And I've been told that best case scenario, it'll be 2 to 5 years before I get paid. So I've had nothing, but I've been working hard. My fiance just went back to Michigan to stay with her family and friends. while I'm staying out here working, trying to get a place for us. She's going to be coming back shortly and help work so we can try to maintain a living out here. But yeah, up until today, I'm still homeless.
So your fiance, where did you meet your fiance?
I met her. That's Farah. She came to testify, not Sarah. So you weren't confused. My ex-wife is Sarah with an S. My fiance is Farah with an F, like Farrah Fawcett.
Okay.
She is the one who was just happened to be at a party one night when Angel Paris started talking and telling the entire party about how she set me up. And that she's the woman I told you about who came forward to testify, even though she is completely averse to anything like that. She was so moved. She said it was just she was disgusted. She was sick. She said she thought she was going to throw up.
And so you've been together for how long now?
We have been together since the end of last September, beginning of October. So it's been about a year. I made her acquaintance a few months after I got out. And then after my ex-wife and I, Sarah, decided that we just can't live together without arguing. As much as we love each other, we can't live together. And so after Sarah and I broke it off, I started seeing Farah.
Okay. And you know, while you continue to rebuild your life, it must be very difficult trying to maintain a relationship and a job while you're homeless with nowhere to live.
Oh, it's immensely difficult, and just not the lack of means. I mean, at least I used to think I understood a couple things. Let me put it this way. Overcoming all of that is so difficult. It comes up every day. The anger, the resentment, people are like, oh, you should be happy. I am happy. I am so happy. The worst day out here is so much better than the best day in there. But the pain, the loss, I'm reminded of it daily. I watch the fights. Just trying to get back in, trying to find a way, an avenue to get, to reopen my gym, talking to people in the industry. Every day the wound is just ripped open again,
Here's the thing, Jason. We do a lot of wrongly convicted cases. On this show, a lot of our shows that we do are killed by cops, police brutality, but we do a lot of shows on wrongful convictions. But it's very rare we get to do a case where no crime occurred.
Yeah, the only crimes that occurred were committed against me.
Yeah. But I'm beginning to find out through the National Registry of Exonerations that there are thousands of cases of people who have been convicted of crimes where the crime never even occurred.
Yeah, and that happens because the way our system is set up, and so many things about our system are good and better than so many other places. But one of the things that is horrible about our system is that the prosecutor and the judge, from the very beginning of the process, set the process, and the judge decides by the rules of evidence of what will be allowed shapes the entire case. Yeah. And so many people are convicted just because the truth is never allowed to be heard. How can the truth be wrong? I do not understand. And I've studied law. I have an associate's degree. I'm a paralegal. I studied the law. I hate the law. I studied it. It makes no sense. It goes against every precept of fairness from the original Hammurabi's Code. The purpose of law is equity. There is no equity in the U.S. system.
Just one last question for me before you can round up with anything that you might want to round up in, because we're almost at the end of the show, Jason, and I'm not sure if there's anything else that you need to get out, websites, contact details, ways people can support you, etc. If you can think on that for a minute. But my final question to you is, What's the plans for your friend Mr. Cope, Charles Cope, as he continues to rot in jail for a crime that never occurred?
I need, like I mentioned, to raise enough money to get an attorney to file a writ of habeas corpus on a claim of actual innocence, to get that filed for him, which is a federal claim. And then any way that anyone wants to help, any further media attention, anyone who's interested in my story. I had contact at one point with Mark Wahlberg through a good friend of mine who died. His brother is one of the ones that Entourage is based on. But since his brother has died, Jay has blocked my access to Mark. So, and I talked to Mark before. So if he happens to listen and is still interested in my story, I'm still interested in Mark being involved in my story. But I've lost my ability to have contact with him. And anybody else who is interested and wants to know the truth of wrongful convictions in Michigan and the United States, or about my case particular, anyone who wants to help or spread anything, I'm willing. And at this point, my primary goal is to get Cope out and to reopen my gym. I lost out on an opportunity earlier this year. Amelie Letourneau had enough respect for me, asked me to coach her, but I didn't have a location to do so. She did that last May, right after I got out. And this past June, she just signed a contract with UFC. That could have been my way back in, but I didn't have a place. I need a gym. If anybody wants to partner with me, anybody wants to, anything, I'm willing to listen to offers. And I appreciate all your help, Julian, in publicizing my case.
Well, Jason Sadowski, Coach Jason, we covered your case again, as I said, about a year or 2 years ago with George Barwood, while you were still in prison. And we did promise that we would see this thing through to the end. And once you were, because George always believed that you'd be released on appeal. He never doubted you being exonerated, and fought as hard as he could from the position that he was in.
Yes, I did, and I was lucky. George was amazing. There was a lot of people like him. Anybody who especially lawyers, as soon as they started reading the initial statements and the facts of the case, everyone knew it was garbage. They knew that it was make-believe. I have so much thanks to Peter John Van Hoek, to my attorney at retrial, Tony Ruiz, who's still representing me, to Jeffrey Diskovic, who has helped me so much with contacts and with putting me in touch with people in the community of exonerees, and he works so hard on our behalf. He is a formerly false convicted man who is now studying for his bar. He is actively involved in advocating for people. There's so many people. I definitely want to again thank people like Farah, who came forward to testify on my behalf, even though they had no reason or obligation to do so. People like Sarah, my ex-wife, who fought so hard for me, even though she had no true connection to me. She's my ex-wife, but she knew the truth and she knew me, and she fought for me until justice was done. There are people who stood by my side and who testified for me. My friend Brandon Heideco, a student, a fighter, he has been with me every step of the way. He has patiently told people the facts, because he still lives there and is in that town and knows a lot of the people who will still have a reason to be against me. And he is a God-fearing, good man, a family man, with a great student and a great friend.
Well, amen. Once again, we just thank you for sharing your story with us again, Jason. And I just hope that we can revisit this again when Mr. Charles Cope is set free, and we can have the both of you on the show to just really celebrate.
Very good. Absolutely. I would love nothing more. And anything else, if there's anything further discussions on just wrongful convictions, any way you need my help or I can be of a benefit, just let me know.
Will do. Once again, Coach Jason Sadowski, thank you very much for joining us on Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio.
Thank you.
God bless. Take care, my friend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Imperial Lounge presents an icon.
Reggae dancehall by the beach. To be held at Imperial Lounge, 2 to 14 High Street, Margate Seafront, Kent, CT9 118. To be held on the first Saturday of each month. Your host DJ Matt. Also rotating DJs, Roddy Boone, DJ Happy,
and Younger General.
Doors open 8 p.m. till late. Free entry all night. Music policy, reggae, dancehall, and a touch of soul. On the first Saturday of each month. Reggae dancehall by the beach. At the Imperial Lounge Margate. Do remember, you can also get VIP and shisha booking. More info on the World Jam Global website. That's www.worldjamglobal.com. Also www.imperialloungemargate.co.uk.
See you there.
It's the right thing you doing. 1, 2, 3, swing it.
Do you have an old sound tape or your favorite cassette tape that you want converted to CD or MP3 format? Do you need a demo CD, radio ad, a DJ, or even a sound system for your wedding, birthday, or special occasion? Then why not get in contact with KTR Records on 07931 152 448, or check out our website on www.ktrrecords.com. We have been in business since 2004 and also undertake community projects. So for your remixes, duplets, and all your sound editing needs, why not contact KTR Records, official sponsor of World Jam Global Radio. KTR Records, coming your way. Do you like music like this?
Great music all the time.
Or like this?
The music you love.
Maybe this.
Great music that makes you want to turn up the volume loud.
Or life track like this.
Especially where human life is concerned. Surely, sooner or later, people will realize that lives actually matter.
Then you're in the right place. Keep it locked to World Jam Global, where music is harmony.
Music 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Yeah, you're my World Jam. Hotter than them.
See live schedule.
World Jam Global Radio. This is
I already did my time. I paid for my crime. I already did my time. I paid for my crime. I already did my time.
That was a very positive outcome.
I already did my
strong finish.
And
a great interview with Coach Jason Sadowski.
I paid for my
sentenced for 40 to 80 years for a crime that never took place. Please share a thought for Charles Cope.
The system
still serving 25 to 40 years for the very same crime that never took place, just because he had bad representation. Don't forget to join me again next Saturday night, same time, same place, same channel.
Very quick on my feet. I was
Issues Today live on World Jam Global Radio. That's a place to be.
So sweet. Nothing's changed. The whole game has been real.
I'll have another fresh, explosive, and exclusive interview.
And it ain't about being no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail. Trying to cope with this living hell.
But for now, guys, I'm out of here.
I paid for my crime.
God bless and take care in all you do.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had to do. That's why I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent, I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid shit. Now sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb. I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chum. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters.
The opening statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison.
Already did my time.